and welcome to Freedom Watch, your daily dose of raw liberty, streaming online at foxnews.com. I'm your host, Judge Andrew Napolitano, here defending freedom, defending your natural rights, and defending your right to have a government that stays within the confines of the Constitution. A self-written search warrant, even one called a national security letter, is the ultimate assault on constitutionally guaranteed freedom. Why would government agents bother going to a judge with probable cause seeking a search warrant if they can simply write their own? Big Brother must have caught on, because federal agents have written and have executed their own search warrants on over 120,000 unsuspecting Americans since October 2001. Is this the society we want? Have we ultimately elected a government to spy on all of us? The Fourth Amendment is the linchpin to our personal privacy and individual dignity. Without the Fourth Amendment's protections, we'll become another East Germany. The Congress must recognize this before it is too late. Joining me now is Mike German, National Security Policy Counsel at the American Civil Liberties Union and a former FBI special agent. Mike testified on these abuses allowed by the Patriot Act before the House Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties earlier this month. Mike, it's a pleasure. Welcome to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, and thank you for having me again.
Do you think that the Congress, and we'll get into the Republican versus Democrat thing later, regardless of who controls it now, is actually going to extend the portions of the Patriot Act that are up for expiration at the end of this year and reauthorize the abuse of our constitutional liberties?
I think there's little doubt that they'll be extended. What we're hoping for is that in the extension they will limit them somewhat and also limit some of the other authorities that have already proven to be abused.
I know that there's a lot of companion legislation, and there was much legislation written in the Bush administration which expanded on things in the Patriot Act. I mean, for example, there's a Intelligence Authorization Act of 2004, which is basically just giving money to the intelligence agencies, that redefines the word financial institution. That phrase is in the Patriot Act, and that phrase allows federal agents, of which you were once one, to prepare their own search warrants and serve them on financial institutions. But if you go to the other legislation and see the definition of financial institutions, it includes everything from delicatessens to hospitals to hotels to lawyers' offices to the post office. So there is a panoply of legislation out there which gives federal agents extraordinary power, extra constitutional power. Were the constitutional underpinnings, or lack of them, discussed in any way at this hearing where you testified last week?
Certainly it was brought up in my testimony and the testimony of some of the other witnesses. You know, basically the argument that we're making is that Congress really, because just as you said, this is a number of different laws that have been amended through the Patriot Act and through a lot of the follow-on legislation. So Congress really has to sit down and figure out how all these different authorities are being used to understand how tweaking one might just lead to more abuse of another. And there's a perfect example of that with the Section 215 authorities, and I'd be happy to talk about that.
What are the 215 authorities? What is Section 215, and what did you say about it when you testified last week, Mike?
Section 215, you might remember, was called the library provision. And basically what it allows the FBI to do is to go to the secret Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court and get an order for any tangible thing, for anything they say is relevant to their investigation. So it's an enormously broad power. And basically, groups like the American Civil Liberties Union and a lot of other civil liberties groups became very concerned because this was such a broad authority where the government could come and grab, you know, what reading material you're buying from, or renting from the library, or buying from bookstores. So it was an authority that we were very concerned about. Well, it turns out after a couple of IG reports that authority is used very infrequently because, as you said, the national security letters, which don't even require that small step of going to this secret court, gives the FBI the authority to circumvent it. Well, there was one case the IG found in his report where the FBI had twice gone to this secret court looking for one of these Section 215 orders, and twice the secret court told the FBI, no, this is a violation of this person's First Amendment rights.
And of course, if one of these self-written search warrants, which the FBI and the statute call national security letters, is served on your doctor, your lawyer, your computer server, your telephone carrier, your dentist, your delicatessen, the list is almost endless, and the government gathers private information about you and doesn't use it in any prosecution against you, you might never know that you have lost your right to be left alone, that your Fourth Amendment rights were violated, that your privacy was exquisitely violated, because the recipient of that warrant is told when it's served on them, you can't tell anybody about this.
That's right. There's a gag order that comes with it. It comes with the Section 215 orders as well. And the ACLU has challenged that in court, and it's twice been found unconstitutional. At one point, the Congress tweaked it just a little bit, but it's still been found unconstitutional.
We know. You talked earlier about libraries. We know in the librarian case, where the Bush administration prosecuted an 86-year-old librarian in Bridgeport, Connecticut, on the eve of the judge in the trial in the criminal case, signaling to the Justice Department that she was going to declare that unconstitutional. The crime was not failure to comply with the search warrant. The crime was that she told another librarian that she received the subpoena. The government asked the court to dismiss the indictment rather than suffer the declaration of unconstitutionality. When and how does this end? We have FBI agents, your former colleagues, being told by a court they can't do something and doing it on their own. We have the Justice Department being told, I'm about to declare something unconstitutional. Something has been already declared unconstitutional, and doing it nevertheless. And all of this is done in secret, and the targets are rarely ever aware that the government has them in their crosshairs.
That's exactly right. And what we really need is a lot of transparency, and it's really Congress's obligation to pull that curtain back.
Was there any serious discussion when you testified before the House Judiciary Subcommittee about whether any of this is unconstitutional, about whether any federal agents under any circumstances should be able to write their own search warrants or go to secret courts, or whether the Fourth Amendment as written and as was interpreted for 150 years should be enforced today?
Not nearly enough. I mean, certainly that was part of my testimony. It was part of the testimony of a number of the other witnesses. So we're hoping that Congress is getting the message. And there are a couple of pieces of legislation out there now that would narrow this authority quite a bit. There's the Justice Act by Senators Feingold and Durbin that is a comprehensive bill that looks at a lot of these different authorities and tries to narrow them to bring them more in line with the Constitution. So we're hoping that Congress acts.
Mike German, thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you very much for having me, Judge Napolitano.